Hello, I'm Ben Tuman, and welcome to Skipped History. Today's story is about the U.S.'s first attempt at passing universal health care, which I read about in The Social Transformation of Medicine by Professor Paul Starr and Almost Persuaded by Ronald Numbers. You kind of get the picture from that title. Around 1915, the U.S. came maybe the closest it ever has to universal health care. But things went awry, largely thanks to a racist German and his employer, Prudential Insurance. Oh, the early 1900s, back when women were really mad at the president, the U.S. was engaged in a long war overseas for unclear reasons, and people were dying of flu-like symptoms. The U.S. gathered a lot of valuable lessons from that time. Unfortunately, we don't know where they are. The turn of the 20th century also saw a lot of medical breakthroughs. And as the price of medicine went up, governments in Europe were like, maybe we should lower it. In 1883, Germany rolled out universal health care, and the rest of Europe soon followed suit, leading to maybe the most surprising phrase I'll ever say. It was an exciting time to talk about insurance. And after reports that universal health care was working surprisingly well in Great Britain, that more patients were benefiting and doctors were profiting, there was a growing sense here in the U.S. that it was only a matter of time before it was our turn for universal health care. Statistician Fred Hoffman said not so fast. You might remember Fred as the German who came to the U.S. in 1884 and ended up in the South. In 1896, he published Race Traits and Tendencies of the American Negro, which argued that black people were more likely to be criminals because of their inherent moral traits. As it turns out, Fred was still racist 20 years later, but thanks to his book, he had also earned a reputation as the most reliable statistician in America, if not the world. That's how he managed to get on the committee of an influential organization called the American Association for Labor Legislation, which by 1914 had drafted the first universal health care bill in the U.S. Fred, however, resigned from the committee in disgust because their plan called for things like covering the medical costs of all workers earning below a specific yearly amount, and that would cut into insurance company profits. He claimed his opposition to universal health care was disinterested and patriotic, but hello, Fred worked for Prudential, whose medical insurance business was then beginning to prosper. With the company's backing, Fred launched a vociferous anti-insurance propaganda campaign. At the 1916 Conference on Social Insurance, a must attend, according to then Senator Bernie Sanders, he has never looked a day over 75. Fred testified that everything was already working fine, and that his own investigations conclusively show that the needs of our wage earners are adequately met. A statement almost as insane as Jeff Bezos saying the needs of Amazon's workers are adequately met, or as saying I do to Ted Cruz, but hey, people do it. Then Fred went full Kavanaugh. He leveraged his reputation to discredit an economist named Olga Halsey, who had been reporting positively on universal health care in Europe. Fred said it was preposterous that so much weight could be given to reports by some little girl. If nothing else, she proved that you could flimflam anybody if you have been to Germany, which I can attest is true. I've been to Germany, and I do now have the power to flimflam you into thinking I've never taken one photo of Schnitzel, and I mean ever. But in 1916, unlike Olga Halsey, Fred had not been to Germany or to Great Britain to assess the insurance situations there. Even the polite British Medical Journal took issue with Fred, saying his statement that insurance in England was a failure was certainly open to dispute, which is British for off with his head, baby. But in the U.S., lies spread fast, and Fred muddied the waters so much that many people who had supported universal health care no longer knew what to think. His case got an unexpected boost after the U.S. entered World War I. The U.S. government, eager to distance itself from anything Deutsche, including having an efficient healthcare system, adopted Fred's criticisms of universal healthcare, as did a host of publications. Soon, Many people who had been for universal health care were against it. The sense of inevitability that the U.S. would be the next country to have universal health care dissipated, and the reform movement petered out. Prudential and Fred, to whom almost all of the anti-insurance propaganda at the time can be attributed, had won again. Or, as the British might say, looks like somebody came out on top, baby. Could the U.S. have adopted universal health care in the 1910s? Maybe. Would we have universal health care today, if not for Fred? It's hard to say for sure. But one thing is certain. Prudential, buoyed by its triumph over universal health care, only continued to grow, and today is the largest insurance company in the U.S., proving that you can flim-flam anybody if you have ties to a racist German and billions of dollars. And they're not the only ones who fit that billing. The Koch brothers do too, and in more ways than one. Tune in next time to learn more about that bit of skipped history.